The fair pay agreements that are in the have been outlined need to be as deep and as broad as possible. And I don't think, as trade unionists, we can accept it just being confined to a sector such as the care sector in care homes. Because what will address issues in care homes is basically a massive increase in the minimum wage and compulsory terms and conditions. But what we'd like to see is sector-wide bargaining. In the 1970s, we used to have sector-wide bargaining for virtually every worker in this country. So the Engineering Employers Federation used to sit down with people like the T&G and the GMB and set the rates for every engineering worker in the country. And even in non-union employers, they would pay the union rate. We need that in transport, we need it in manufacturing, we need it in healthcare. Because what we've got in the NHS, of course, is a mass wave of outsourcing. It's happening all around us all of the time. And what we should have in the NHS is not pay review bodies, not people deeming what you should get. We should have collective bargaining for the whole workforce. That's true of education, it's true of every sector. And we need the Labour Party to legislate for sector-wide bargaining. Everyone talks about Europe. That's what they have in Europe. You're covered by collective terms. And the strength of it is it goes into every workplace, whether they're the mainstream organised companies or not. And finally, the point I'm going to make is outsourcing. Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer have said it in front of me and everyone on this top table. We're going to have the biggest wave of insourcing in the history of British industry. Well, that's exactly what we need, because the outsourcing model is what is degrading our working class communities. It's also institutionalising racism in most of our big cities. You do not have to be a social scientist to walk along on the London Underground or walk along on the National Rail Network to see who is being exploited the most. It is black workers, new migrant workers, people from the minority communities that are getting paid the lowest wages of anyone in the country, and they're being exploited by people who are in this conference. This is the delivery model of modern capitalism. It's super exploitation, it's the avoidance of obligations to working people, and these people have got to be called out in this conference, and they've got to be called out in the legislation that we get from the Labour Party. And outsourcing is probably the biggest problem that we're facing, and it's got to be addressed by a Labour Party.